Well, it's really nice to be here among a lot of friends and a lot of people who care about the same things that all of us at Demos care about. Just a couple of thank yous. I really want to thank Tammy, not just for the work that she's done tonight, but for the work that she's done for 10 years as a partner, as a comrade, as a colleague, and as the next generation of progressive leadership. I go to sleep at night better knowing that she's here. I really want to thank all the honorees, Bob, Maria Teresa, Ron, all of you. You have done fabulous work in a variety of areas that we care deeply about, and I want to thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm slightly embarrassed at getting sort of an individual award. I appreciate it. I have worked hard. I do feel like we've made some real progress. But what really makes me feel good about the 10 years of Demos is what a truly collective effort it has been organizationally. We have been blessed in any number of ways. We've had a fabulous board from beginning to end, from our current board chair, Emilio Warrantiaghi. It's terrific. Our two former board chairs, the founding board chair emeritus, Charlie Halpern, and the longtime board chair, Stephen Hines, are both here. Thank you very much. We have a staff that is fabulous. One reason where's Linda Tarwell, one reason is because it's 60% women. So we're not in the 30% solution, we're in the 60% solution. But it's a group of young, talented, committed, diverse, really wonderful people. And one of the things that keeps me going at Demos is that I just, every day, enjoy the people I work with, enjoy the effort that all of them put in. Our fellows, our 25 fellows, who range from distinguished senior fellows who have had long careers of public, the articulation of progressive values publicly, to our emerging voices fellows who are given the opportunity to become public voices in the intellectual and progressive and journalism realms. All the partners that we have, our funders, our organizational partners, our intellectual partners, all of this has made Demos what it is. And finally, I want to echo what Tammy and other people have said. To me, one of the crowning achievements of the last year, 2 years of Demos has been the affiliation, the partnership, the strong bond that we have formed with the American Prospect. I'll come back to this, but when it comes to creating a narrative that people have talked about, I think Demos and the Prospect working together can make a major contribution. So I want to acknowledge Kit Rackless, the new editor of the Prospect. Bob Cutler and Paul Starr, the founding co-editors, are both here. And Richard Boriskin, who's done a magnificent job as publishing director. Richard. Before I leave the thank yous, I want to say one thing that people mentioned earlier about Rachel Whiting and Fatih Ahmed, who put this night together. I'd like for Rachel and Fatih, who's somewhere, but Fatih, wherever you are, come up. Rachel. Rachel's a big shot, so she doesn't get flowers, but Fatih gets the flowers. Fatih, thank you so much. The collective enterprise that I described, I think will allow us to have a platform and to be a voice and to be an institution that can make a major difference in our next 10 years. Which is good because we damn well better be. We are in the early stages of, I think, the most critical period in our political history since World War II. Without elevating or de-escalating this to a history lesson, I want to say a couple of quick things. I believe that we've had fundamentally two different periods of our political history since World War II. First was the first 30 years after World War II, roughly speaking, from 1946 to the mid-70s. During that period, partly because we were the only nation to emerge unscathed from World War II, we had unprecedented economic growth. But we didn't just have economic growth. We had economic growth that was accompanied by a political consensus that business, labor, government all had a role to play, and that it was a goal of public policy to create a middle class, to create economic opportunity for the GIs as they returned home, to young families as they sought to buy a home, to people who wanted a college education, to elderly citizens who needed health care in their retirement and a stable retirement, to decrease, I remember these words, to decrease inequality. It was a matter of public policy that inequality needed to be decreased, and indeed for those 30 years it did. But most importantly, we managed to create a thriving, broad middle class that was the envy of the world. It was not by accident, it was by public policy, and that was a tremendous, tremendous achievement on the part of the United States. At the end of towards the tail end of the period, the other great thing that happened is what the great exclusions from that middle class began to come down. Civil rights movement, the women's movement, the gay and lesbian movement, all took on the issue of the exclusion from that consensus that they faced and made huge, huge strides. So by the mid-70s, we'd actually become, I don't know why I was so mad back then, actually. Looking back on it. Nick, why was I so mad? But in the last 35 years, so much has changed. Tammy has described much of this in her earlier remarks. But productivity and wages have become unhinged. The labor movement has declined and in fact been decimated by conscious policies. Economic insecurity has risen, the middle class is jeopardized, and economic inequality has increased, and worst of all, the expectation is that economic inequality will always increase. That's just the way of the world. Excuse me, it isn't. All of this has been brought to us by a reigning ideology that the wisdom of markets reigned supreme, the deregulation was always the right path, the tax breaks skewed to the wealthy would bring economic growth, the denigration of government in a 30-year campaign, all of that helped to get us to where we are now. It was an ideology, and I want to point out it was an ideology that 5 years ago, in 2005 and 2006, several books were written saying that that ideology had a hammerlock, a permanent hammerlock on power in the United States. But here's the point. In my view, both of these issues, both of these eras, both of these consensuses are over, are done. The consensus that ruled until from 1975 to 2006 and maybe 2008, that's gone, in my view. On the other hand, those of us, as Bob said eloquently, who thought that the elections of 2006 and 2008 meant that change had come, the people who thought we were permanently lost, that we had permanently lost, or that we had permanently won, were both wrong. What's happening now is that we're entering a third period, the character of which, the fundamental character of which is yet to be determined. It's what I would call contested terrain. It is a situation in which there are two hugely different choices facing the country. What country do we want to be? Do we want to be a country of greater equality, greater opportunity, shared opportunity, and a sense of community? Or do we want to be a country where you're on your own, everybody, the winner take the loser take the hindmost, etc. For Demos, the choice is clear, and it's been clear in our core ideology since we started. We want a society of economic opportunity for all, not just for some. And we want economic growth that is consistent with the sustainability of our planet. We want a democracy that is vibrant. We want a democracy that is vibrant, energetic, and inclusive, not just with high levels of voting, but with high levels of civic engagement generally, where all people are represented and no one's voice is drowned out by the powerful bullhorn of special interest money. Lastly, we want a government that is not them, but that is us. That is a place where we come together to build and maintain the public structures that support our communities and create opportunity for all of us. We are facing a hugely difficult challenge. This is sharply contested. This is not going to be an easy fight. So tonight is a celebration for Demos, but more importantly, from my point of view, it is a recommitment to a movement, to a role, to a place in that movement that I think we can play. What does that mean for us? I think it means that we continue to produce an important body of intellectual work, writing work, journalistic work that is rigorous, principled, and values-driven. I think we make ever stronger efforts to move our values and work out into the public domain, both through journalism, through reports, through social media, through mainstream media, through every mechanism that we can. And we have worked hard to enhance our capacity to do that. It is one of the reasons why I have so much excitement about the American prospect, because I think that one of the things that has to happen to make these values more important in the public debate is superb journalism that writes about them, that writes the policies, that tells the stories of the people behind them. The kind of work that the prospect has done, that Bob Herbert has done, and that we need to do 10 times over if we're going to succeed. Fourth, we want to partner with groups and policymakers in the field and in the states. We want to work together. We're not a grassroots organization, but we can absolutely be and want to be a resource to grassroots organizations who are out there fighting the legislative battles, fighting for policy reforms, to work with state legislators who are doing the same, and we think that we can make Demos into an even better resource to do that. Lastly, we want to continue to build on our platform, to be a really welcoming home for public voices, like our newest fellow, Bob Herbert, people with something to say. We want to be a good collaborative organization, a good place for people to come, for people to work, for people to grow, and people to develop their capacities. I honestly can't tell you how I think that the crossroads that we're currently facing in America will turn out. Somebody said earlier that faith, I think it was Amelia, that faith is taking the first step even when you're saying you can't see the top rung. So I can tell you that Demos is in this fight for real. It's in it with our heart and our soul and our mind for the values that we hold most dear. I can also say it has been a wonderful 10 years for me to be part of Demos. I do look forward to the next 10 years. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being part of our work.